Hi, I'm William Deroff. I am a member of the board of the Jewish Book Council, a judge of the National Jewish Book Awards, and the CEO of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to wish a hearty mazel tov to every National Jewish Book Award winner and finalist, and in fact nominee tonight. Kol hakavod for all that you do to ensure that we, the people of the book, continue to grow and thrive.
My name is Amy Goldberg Michelle. I'm proud to be part of the Jewish Book Council Awards ceremony tonight. I'm sorry we can't be together. I congratulate everyone, and I'm very proud to have named the Holocaust Book Award in memory of my husband, Ernest Michel. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Fishman, and I'd like to congratulate Elisa Ben-Porad, my colleague and my wife, for her book, Legacy of Blood. Elisa is now winning the family competition for National Jewish Book Awards 2-1. Mazel tov, Elisa.
Hi, I'm David Bierman. I'd like to join with my fellow JBC board members in welcoming you to this celebration of another year of Jewish literature. Today we recognize the authors as well as the editors, illustrators, and designers who have brought these works to our community. And a quick shout out to my colleague Dina Neusner, winner of this year's Mentorship Award. Editors work in the background so much of the time, and I'm delighted that Dina is receiving this well-deserved recognition for her service to the Jewish literary community. Have a good evening.
My name is Jody Konstad. The Poetry Award holds a special place in the hearts of our family, as it's named in loving memory of our parents, Ruth and Bernie Weinflash. It's with admiration that we congratulate tonight's poetry winner, Ilya Kaminsky, on his very moving book, The Deaf Republic. Congratulations from all of us.
Hello, I'm Judy Lieberman, a board member of the Jewish Book Council. Welcome to our 2020 National Jewish Book Awards, and congratulations to our National Jewish Book Award winners. We are so proud to be honoring you here tonight, and thank you for your beautiful books.
I'm Ruth Bernstein, Danny Shapiro's aunt. Mazel tov, Danny. Inheritance speaks to your love of family and your skills as a writer. On behalf of all the members of the Shapiro clan, I wish you many years of health and good stories.
I'm Vicki Weber, partner at Behrman House, sending warm and heartfelt congratulations to my friend and colleague, Dina Neusner, from all of us here at Behrman House and Apples and Honey Press, on being named this year's recipient of the Carolyn Starman Hessel Mentorship Award. Congratulations, Dina.
To all the National Jewish Book Award winners, congratulations. On behalf of all the funding partners at Canvas, we are honored to support your diverse and determined voices. There's never been a more important time for artists to help us escape despair, face universal truths, or make the case for humanity. Thank you for giving voice to the Jewish experience and the human experience. Keep writing, and we'll keep reading.
Good evening. I'm Joy Greenberg, Vice President of the Board of the Jewish Book Council. I want to congratulate all the winners of the National Jewish Book Awards. Enjoy your special night.
I am delighted to congratulate Pamela S. Nadell, winner of the Everett Family Foundation Award for Jewish Book of the Year, for her America's Jewish Women, A History from Colonial Times to Today, and also to congratulate Naomi Seidman for the Women's Studies Barbara Dobkin Award for her Sarah Schenerer and the Beis Yaakov Movement, a revolution in the name of tradition.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Rubin, and I'm here to congratulate my beautiful niece, Leslie Newman, on winning this prestigious award. Leslie, you make me proud every minute of every day, not only for your wonderful stories, but also for your stories that help to make this a better world.
I'm Elisa Spangen-Bildner. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Jewish Book Council and a judge for the National Jewish Book Awards. First of all, and above all, I want to congratulate all of the winners. Really, truly a phenomenal job. And to everyone else on this call, if there was ever a time to pick a Jewish book and curl up in a corner and read it, that time is now. Enjoy.
Hi, Rachel. Congratulations from the virtual Shanghai Embankment building, which your protagonist Lillian knew well. We are so proud of your National Jewish Book Award for Someday We Will Fly, beautiful young adult fiction.
And we are grateful to the Jewish Book Council for choosing your book and grateful for your brilliant writing. We, your mom and dad, love you.
Hi, my name is Tracy Brown, and I am on the Executive Board of the Jewish Book Council. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of the 2019 Jewish Book Council Award winners. Finally, although not in the way that we had planned to celebrate you. You are an esteemed group of writers and scholars, and I am so proud to be part of an organization that honors you. Mazel tov again from myself and on behalf of the Jewish Book Council.
I'm Sandy Berger and want to congratulate Professor Naomi Sokoloff on winning the JBC Award for what we talk about when we talk about Hebrew. Professor Sokoloff has long shown the importance and beauty of Hebrew and Israeli literature and has shared that passion within the academic world and the Jewish community at large. Congratulations, Naomi.
Hello, I'm Edith Everett, a proud member of the Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors, and I'm so pleased to congratulate the 2019 National Jewish Book Award winners, especially the winner of the Everett Family Foundation Book of the Year Award to Pamela Nadell on her remarkable achievement. Mazel tov to Pamela and to all of the winners.
I'm Amir Shaviv from the Joint Distribution Committee. We established the Herbert Ketsky Award to promote writing history based on archival material. Congratulations to the winners of this year, and thank you, the Jewish Book Council, who can turn any book into a source of light.
Hi everyone, I'm Lenore Weitzman, one of the Vice Presidents of the Jewish Book Council, and I'm so happy to be here tonight to finally celebrate and praise the winners of the Jewish Book Awards for this year. Mazal Tov. I'm very proud and honored to be a member of the JBC Board of Directors and thought this would be a great occasion to offer a toast to the JBC for the amazing work it does on promoting Jewish books and Jewish literature, to the brilliant authors that we're honoring tonight. L'chaim, Mazal Tov, Kol HaKavod to all, B'chatzlacha. We have a lot to celebrate tonight. L'chaim.
Welcome to the 69th Annual National Jewish Book Awards. I'm Jane Weitzman, President of the Jewish Book Council. It is an honor to be with you tonight when we recognize our winners from 2019. There are no authors at my table. In fact, I'm not even at a table, but I'm very grateful to Naomi Firestone Teeter, our amazing executive director, and her dedicated staff, who all worked so hard to make tonight possible. While we miss seeing so many of you at our annual awards dinner, we are thrilled that readers from all over the world are able to join us. This year, we hosted 25 virtual events and are providing authors for 1,300 events all over North America for our Jewish community partners. We also published our nearly 300-page literary journal, Paper Brigade, and we reach over 500,000 people through our digital platforms. All of this work would not have been possible without the Jewish Book Council's remarkable board of directors, who play a vital role in our continued support and guidance of the organization. I am proud to work alongside of them, as well as our gifted and devoted staff. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I would also like to thank the many readers out there who have so generously supported our organization by becoming members this year. I'm very grateful for your acknowledgement of our work. For those of you meeting us for the first time, we hope that you will consider becoming a member to ensure that the Jewish Book Council continues to expand, engage, enrich, and educate our community through the written word. And now I would like to introduce Naomi Firestone Teeter, our outstanding Executive Director.
Thank you so much, Jane, not only for your beautiful words on behalf of Jewish Book Council, but also for your impressive leadership and vision, which continued to guide the organization to new heights. I truly do not know where we would be without your dedication to the vital role of literature to our community, and I cannot thank you enough. Our original celebration of our 2019 winners was scheduled for March 17th of this past year, but at that time, we had to make a very tough decision to postpone it. It's now especially sweet to be able to honor the winners during Jewish Book Month, the program that is the foundation of Jewish Book Council. It's so meaningful to be able to recognize literary achievements at a time when our community partners are also celebrating Jewish literature through their own virtual book festivals and programs. As Jane mentioned, JBC quickly ramped up all of its efforts in March, and the early successes of these programs reinforced once again how essential literature is to our community. Not only did these programs bring thousands of readers together from all over the world, they brought them together specifically to engage with Jewish ideas and for Jewish education, entertainment, and enrichment to build empathy. Book sales are up, book clubs have been revived, and I'm so proud to represent an organization that remains committed to the power of the written word. In addition to thanking Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors, who continue to play a tremendous role in supporting Jewish Book Council, I'd also like to thank JBC's amazing staff who have been working tirelessly to not only continue JBC's pre-pandemic efforts, but also to develop and imagine new ways to ensure readers know about the incredible spectrum of Jewish voices published every year. Finally, thank you to our 2019 National Jewish Book Award judges who spent so much time carefully considering hundreds of submissions, reading, debating, and discussing. We know this can be a challenging process, and we're grateful for the important work you put in to determining the literary honors we celebrate tonight. And with that, I would like to turn things over to our MC for the evening, a member of Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors, Andrea Miller.
Thank you so much, Naomi. I am honored to be here on behalf of the Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors to present the 2019 National Jewish Book Award winners. These authors represent some of the best and brightest thinkers in the Jewish community, and we're proud to give them this platform here tonight to share their stories and valuable contributions to how we think about Jewish life and community. I'm going to be sharing some brief remarks about each winner, followed by each author speaking to you in their own words from their homes. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. In the chat, we're including some information. There's a link to a PDF that includes all of our judges' remarks for your reference throughout the evening. In addition, when we announce a winner, we're going to include a link to the books page on the Jewish Book Council's website, which also includes the judges' remarks, as well as options to purchase the winning titles. If you have any words of congratulations for the winners, while the chat has been turned off, please feel free to use the Q&A. So any remarks that you'd like to share, please put them in the Q&A. And with that, everybody, please enjoy the 2019 National Jewish Book Awards. The first honor tonight goes to our Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Robert Alter, who spent 2 decades translating the Hebrew Bible into English, resulting in the impressive 3-volume set, The Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary. The completed work is an achievement that the New York Times Book Review calls monumental, marked by literary grace and intelligent commentary. This is the first translation of the Hebrew Bible by a single person, and coupled with Robert's commentary, has made the Hebrew Bible accessible to an even wider audience. A resource for not only academics and serious Bible scholars, but a vital contribution to every Jewish home library and reader. Jewish Book Council is proud to honor you tonight, Robert, with a Lifetime Achievement Award for your valuable contribution to the community, which will surely be treasured for years to come. Mazel tov, Robert.
Well, of course, I'm very gratified by this award, and thank you for your extremely kind words. And I will just say one brief thing about my big translation project, that everything I've done in my career, all the different books I've written, have been about things that I love, novelists that I love, poets that I love. And ever since adolescence, when I got a real handle on Hebrew, I have loved the Hebrew Bible, loved its language, and looking at what was out there, I concluded that people who translated it had no love for the Hebrew of the Bible. It was simply an object of study, and no love for the English language. And I tried to correct that. Thank you very much.
We're so pleased to present our next honor to the 2019 Celebrate 350 American Jewish Studies Award to Kenneth D. Wald for his work, The Foundations of American Jewish Liberalism. Tonight, we honor Kenneth for his timely and, as the judges noted, persuasive, readable, and thoroughly researched contribution to our understanding of Jews in America and their historically liberal position in American politics. This compelling read examines the distinction between American and Israeli Jews to help us gain an understanding of American Jews' distinctive political behavior. Congratulations, Kenneth.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Jewish Book Council for the award, of course, but also for giving me the opportunity to embarrass my adult children who are logged in public. When I told them about the award last January, they both said they wanted to attend the banquet. I was pleased, but suspected that they would demand a right of reply to what I had written about them in the acknowledgments. Here is the offending paragraph. I dedicated an earlier book to my two wonderful daughters, neither of whom ever read it. It's been published in 8 editions, so they've had plenty of time. I'm trying to break that tradition by dedicating this volume to my grandchildren in hopes they will feel obliged to outshine their mothers by reading it. Even though only one of them is currently reading, and the youngest could consume the book only by gnawing on it, I remain hopeful that the chapters will become bedtime stories. I'm happy to report that when my youngest daughter posted this paragraph on Facebook, it received something like 350 likes with comments about how lucky she was to have such a cool father. I'm very happy to have them logged in tonight, but with their microphones firmly muted. Thank you very much.
We are so pleased to present our next honor to the winners of Anthologies and Collections, Naomi B. Sokolov and Nancy E. Berg, co-editors of What We Talk About When We Talk About Hebrew and What It Means to Americans. Bringing together scholars, writers, and poets, this fascinating collection pays homage to the beauty and depth of the Hebrew language. Our judges warn that you cannot read this book without coming away with a desire to learn Hebrew. And we're thrilled to give the work and its authors a wider platform. Congratulations to both of you, Naomi and Nancy.
Thank you. Our book collects different voices, perspectives, and paths to Hebrew. Each of our essays answers, why Hebrew? Why here? Why now? Individually, personally, and sometimes, yes, idiosyncratically. For me, it's being a part, however small, of the extraordinary linguistic feat of the reviving Hebrew. As the book took shape, we realized that we are heirs to the Hebrew cultural movement, Tarbut Ivrit, and that we continue it. 3 figures frame our work: Shai Agnon, the Nobel laureate virtuoso of Hebrew letters; the American writer Raymond Carver, despite his inability to decipher Hebrew letters; and our late colleague, Alan Mintz, who began this conversation about Hebrew in America.
Hi, everyone. As Nancy mentioned, our book features diverse American
perspectives on Hebrew. And in addition, working on this project has piqued my interest in the perspectives of people from elsewhere. For instance, in China, in Saudi Arabia, in Poland, there are university programs now that offer instruction in modern Hebrew. And I'm wondering what it's like to study the language there and what it's like linguistically, cognitively, culturally, emotionally for people whose primary language is, for instance, Amharic or French or something else, to learn Hebrew. So if any of you out there have stories about such experiences, I'd love to hear from you and to discover what you think about when you think about Hebrew. Thank you all very much.
Winning the Contemporary Jewish Life and Practice Myra H. Kraft Memorial Award is Barry Weiss for her work, How to Fight Anti-Semitism. Barry's work is powerful in its punch, empowering her readers to, as the judges note, think clearly and have the courage to stand up against anti-Semitism. And also, very importantly, double down on being Jewish and embrace all of the wisdom, beauty, and power of Jewish life. We're grateful for your contribution and motivating words and are honored to award you with your first National Jewish Book Award. Mazel tov, Barry, and thank you.
Thank you so, so much. As you all can imagine, I left the New York Times over the summer, and I get a lot of questions about why I left. And the reasons I left in the end are directly tied to what I wrote in the pages of this book, which is my first book. I told my readers to tell the truth. I insisted that they call out lies. I said that they needed to be willing to stand alone in standing up for what's right, to be uncool, to sacrifice personal prestige or professional gain for virtues that endure, for eternal things that are much more important than anything like that. And I urged them to know and to cultivate those virtues in their lives and in their communities so that they would become more precious than any kind of external validation. So who would I be if I didn't follow my own advice? In the end, I left the paper because in writing this book, I kind of put myself on the hook unwittingly, and I couldn't bear the embarrassment, the personal embarrassment of failing really to live up to the values that I put down in these pages. So they say that that writing a book changes your life. I couldn't have imagined that it would have changed mine in quite this dramatic a way, but I'm so grateful that it has, and I'm so grateful for your recognition. Thank you so much.
We're now honored to present the Krauss Family Award for Autobiography and Memoir in memory of Simon and Shulami Goldberg, to Dani Shapiro for her important memoir, Inheritance, a memoir of genealogy, paternity, and love. Dani, your book has moved our judges and so many members of our community, inspiring important conversations about who we are, where we come from, and how we define ourselves. By sharing your personal exploration of Jewish identity, you've created an access point for so many others to begin important conversations in their own families. Our judges called Inheritance your finest work yet, and we're so proud to honor you tonight. Mazel tov, Dani.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At a certain point, a writer begins to see or identify her themes. Over the course of 9 books, Inheritance being my 10th, whether in fiction or in nonfiction, I found myself exploring family and secrecy again and again. If you had asked me why, I would have told you that I came from a family who kept secrets. I knew that much, but what I didn't know was that I was the secret. Stumbling on this discovery quite by accident in midlife has been an incredible challenge and an extraordinary gift. I've had the opportunity to explore the deep territory of what makes us, us. What is fatherhood? What is family? From where do we derive our identity? Which is more important, nature or nurture? What do our ancestors mean to us? It also gave me the opportunity to think of my parents, both long gone, as people, vulnerable human beings, driven by their own needs and desires, products of their times. Bringing this book into the world has been its own journey, as hundreds of thousands of people are discovering that their genetic histories were hidden from them. It's a wild ride, and I'm so grateful for it, and to the Jewish Book Council for this recognition. Thank you so much.
We will now shine a light on David E. Lowe. David, you are taking home tonight the second annual Biography Award in memory of Sarah Berenson Stone for your work, Touched with Fire, Morris B. Abram and the Battle Against Racial and Religious Discrimination, which traces Abram's remarkable career from civil rights to Soviet Jewry to advocacy for Israel, just to name a few highlights. Our judges call this book enlightening and inspiring, an important contribution to our understanding of how one person can make a remarkable impact on our country and community. Fitting for an award named for Sarah Berenson Stone. Thank you, David.
I want to begin by thanking the JBC for this extraordinary honor, as well as the family of Sarah Berenson Stone, the remarkable New Orleans philanthropist in whose memory the award is named. When I started my research for the book, I was often asked, why a biography of Morris Abram? My response was simply, why not? Spending his childhood in a rural Southern town with a mere dozen Jewish families at the height of Jim Crow segregation, Abram rose to become one of the nation's leading civil rights lawyers. He went on to play a leading role in securing the Vatican's historic declaration against anti-Semitism, convening the historic Freedom Day rally on the National Mall on behalf of Soviet Jewry, and standing up at the UN on behalf of the State of Israel. Morris Abram believed fervently in the values of civil discourse, free expression, and respect for the rule of law, which holds together, he argued, our diverse republic. He would be troubled to see those values challenged as they are today, and he would be deeply disappointed to see his dream of a colorblind society, one he shared with his good friend Martin Luther King, diminished by the divisive politics of identity. Perhaps what impressed me most in my interviews with associates, some whose relationship with him went back over 60 years, was how many of those who knew Abram best were struck by his ability to seek out and engage with the ideas of others, even when they expressed viewpoints with which he vigorously disagreed. A nice lesson for us all. Thank you.
Alice Hoffman is a literary superstar. She has published over 30 novels in addition to her works of short fiction and works for children and young adults. With an Oprah Book Club choice under her belt, she can now include the Miller Family Book Club Award in memory of Helen Dunn Weinstein and June Keat Miller on her impressive list of accomplishments and accolades. Her World War II era National Jewish Book Award-winning book, The World That We Knew, captures love and loss, the magical and historical, with a good dose of Golem thrown in for good measure. Her work is treasured by many, and we're so privileged to have Alice join us here tonight. Mazel tov, Alice.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to read a tiny little thing to you. Once you tell a story, you're not forgotten. That's what our grandmothers always told us. And I realized that to be true while writing about 3 characters who refused to be silent in the world that we knew, which takes place during the Holocaust. It was the great honor of my life to interview child survivors of the Holocaust, now in their 80s and 90s, both in the United States and France, who shared their stories with me, many of whom became close friends. Their stories are at the heart of this novel. I traveled to France and visited all of the chateaus around Lyon, where child survivors, mostly from Paris and Berlin, were sent to be kept safe. Most never saw their parents again, but the love of those parents and the sacrifices they made inspired every word I wrote. My novel asks one question, the same question I had in 2016 when I began to write the book. How do people survive cruelty and disaster and still see that the world is beautiful? I found my answer while writing this novel, and thank you so much for honoring it.
At Jewish Book Council, we know the power of illustrated children's books, and this year's winners of the Children's Literature Award, writer Leslie Newman and illustrator Amy June Bates, have added an important work to the canon. Tackling the subject of immigration, Gittle's Journey, an Ellis Island story, shares a personal and compelling tale based on the author's own family. As our judges note, the gentle text is fast-paced, full of Jewish identity, sprinkled with Yiddish at the perfect moments. Soft watercolor illustrations in a muted brown palette highlight vignettes of Gittle's emotional journey. Your story is moving and the physical book is gorgeous. We're so pleased to honor you both.
Gittle's Journey is based on a true family story, a story I grew up with, a story embedded in my bones. In 1911, a young Jewish girl named Sadie traveled by herself from Eastern Europe to America, holding a piece of paper with the name and address of a cousin who had already immigrated. She held the paper so tightly, all the ink wore off on her hand and the paper could not be read. How did Sadie, renamed Gittle in my story, locate her family? You'll have to read the book to find out, but I'll give you a hint. What I learned through my research is that back then, people were kind to refugees. There were many children traveling alone and makeshift families formed on board the ships. When people arrived at Ellis Island, kind immigration officers helped them find their way. The real Gittle grew up to have 2 daughters, one of whom is my Aunt Phyllis, who is with us this evening. Aunt Phyllis has 2 sons, 4 grandsons, and 6 great-grandchildren. When I asked Aunt Phyllis what she learned from her mother and what she wanted to pass down through the generations, she said her mother taught her to be kind and accepting of others, even those, and especially those, who are different than you. And that is the message of my book as well. Thank you so much for this honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Leslie, and the Jewish Book Award Committee, and everyone who's read this book. I love this story. Thank you to Leslie's family and for telling this wonderful story and giving me the opportunity to illustrate it and to dive into this world. We know that now more than ever is important to tell stories like this and to remember kindness and generosity and to love children and to protect them.
It's always exciting to learn about the winner of the Goldberg Debut Fiction Prize, and this year is no exception, especially since our winner, Sarah Blake, is zooming in from England. Winning the award for her debut novel, Nama, Sarah dives into the biblical tale of Noah and the Ark, but with fresh eyes. The story is told from the perspective of his wife, Nama. Our judges say that Blake has brought Nama to the contemporary world of literature and made her relevant today, giving us a female hero who holds everyone together through the storms, while struggling for answers about her and her family's questionable future. We're so pleased to award you this debut honor, Sarah, and we look forward to seeing what your literary future holds. Mazel tov.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk a little bit about writing a book about isolation. When I remembered the story of Noah's Ark, I really only remembered that the rains were for 40 days and 40 nights. But when I researched the story to write Nama, to really get into the book, I came to understand that the family was on the Ark isolating for over a year. So it was very bizarre, only a few years later, to be asked to isolate with my own family. But I think that writing Nama and depicting that very difficult year plus made me even more grateful that as we isolate, we know there's hope to see many of our family and friends again, which wouldn't be the case on the Ark. And, you know, that hope's there if we wear our masks and work together towards our safety and our future. And I really want to thank everyone who's helping protect our communities and our loved ones. So thank you.
Our next winner is no stranger to many of you. Taking home tonight's Jewish Education and Identity Award is Deborah Lipstadt for her monumental work, Anti-Semitism, Here and Now, which contributes important and timely scholarship to the field of Jewish studies in general and our understanding of anti-Semitism in particular. Deborah's most recent work continues to establish her as one of the preeminent scholars in our community. Our judges called her tremendous work masterful, complex, and empowering. And we all thank you, Deborah, for your continued and important contributions and dedication to our community. Congratulations.
Thank you all so much. Thank you to the Jewish Book Council, and what a wonderful and smooth running evening. When I first started writing my book, a couple of friends said to me, another book about anti-Semitism. I would say that was about 2016, 17, maybe, something like that. When I told them the book was almost done, they said to me, oh, good, when is the book coming out? And when the book came out, they said, thank you for writing this book. Though I appreciated receiving their graciousness, their gracious thanks, it was indicative to me of how our attitudes have changed. The book is called Anti-Semitism Here and Now, and it certainly is here and now. It is here on the right, it is here on the left, it is here from Islamist extremists. It is becoming normative, and it is something that I think no one expected in the way we are seeing it today. As Barry said earlier, it's something we have to continue to fight. We have to fight it, not just because it's our ox that's being gored, but we have to fight it because it is a danger to democracy. But the other thing we have to remember is never should we become Jews or be stronger in our Jewish identity because of anti-Semitism. We should be strong in our Jewish identity despite anti-Semitism. Thank you all again.
For the inaugural Jane and Stuart Weitzman Family Award for Food Writing and Cookbooks, we are proud to honor Andras Korner for his work, Jewish Cuisine in Hungary, which paints a vivid portrait of pre-war Jewish Hungary through its food, its bakers, its homemakers, and more. The book draws from memoirs, cookbooks, and periodicals to showcase Hungarian Jewish cuisine, masterfully weaving together photos, objects, and recipes to transport the reader to Budapest. Jewish Cuisine in Hungary will no doubt serve as an essential historical reference for years to come, while also modeling what's possible in the field of food scholarship. It's a major achievement, and we're so honored to celebrate your work, Andras, with this inaugural award.
Thank you so much. I started writing books only at age 63 after my retirement as an architect. My first volume focused on my 19th century Hungarian Jewish great-grandmother. And most of my later books, by now close to 10 volumes, grew out of this work by extending its two main themes to cover the whole diversity of pre-Holocaust Hungarian Jewish life, with special emphasis on lifestyles and culinary culture. My recent book, and I'm holding it up, is a cultural history of Hungarian Jewish cuisine. I try to describe it, in it not only the history and characteristic dishes of this cuisine, but also all its other aspects, including urban and rural households, the food industry, the hospitality industry, and much more. There is even a chapter in it about table manners. In Jewish life, cooking has been inseparable from religious tradition. I hope readers of my book will agree with me that eating habits are not isolated things divorced from their social and religious contexts, but organic parts of one's way of life. And thank you very much, and thank you for awarding my book.
We are so pleased tonight to award our third annual Holocaust Book Award in memory of Ernest W. Michel. This year's honor goes to Michael Dobbs for his fascinating and well-written The Unwanted, America, Auschwitz, and a Village Caught in Between. Michael, your work allows the readers to experience empathy, understanding, and genuine concern for people who are trying to keep their family alive during a ruthless war. Your work is impressive and well-researched, and we congratulate you on your honor this evening, Michael.
Thank you so much. The title of my book comes from a slogan that you could see all over Nazi Germany: Jews are unwanted here. The big question the book examines is, were they wanted anywhere else, including here in the United States? Previous books about US refugee policy during the years leading up to World War II focused on the political debate here in America. My goal was to connect these rather abstract policy discussions to the concrete experiences of a single German Jewish community, the village of Kippenheim on the edge of the Black Forest. We follow the Jewish villagers as they're attacked on Kristallnacht, wait in line outside American consulates, obtain visas allowing them to emigrate, or end up in places like Auschwitz. If there's just one thing I came to appreciate better researching and writing this book, it's that our elections and political debates here in America have a profound effect on the rest of the world. In the case of the Holocaust, whether you lived or whether you died often depended on whether you were issued an American visa. The Holocaust is a German story, obviously, but it's got an American dimension that remains very relevant today. Thank you very much.
Elisa Bemperad, tonight we honor you with the Modern Jewish Thought and Experience DeRote Foundation Award in memory of Joy Ungerleider Meyerson for your work, Legacy of Blood, Jews, Pogroms, and Ritual Murder in the Lands of the Soviets. Your meticulous research takes us from 1917 to the 1960s, from pogroms to blood libel, shedding new light on the position of Jews in Soviet society. Thank you, Elisa, for painting, as our judges note, a vivid, fascinating, and complex picture of modern Jewish history with your work. Congratulations.
Thank you. This book tells a story of violence, physical violence, rhetorical violence, actual and imagined violence, of how violence shapes identities, communities, memories, relations with neighbors, with state authorities, and the role that the state has in sustaining cultures of violence. It's a book that tells us what happened to pogroms and blood libels, the two most extreme manifestations of anti-Semitism in Tsarist Russia, in the Soviet Union from 1917 to the early 1960s, in the context, that is, of a system that, at least on paper, boasted a break from the Tsarist period and claimed its commitment to fight against anti-Semitism, a fight that was inherently ambivalent from the very beginning. What have I learned by writing this book? This book has been a reminder for me of the fact that anti-Semitism, like racism today in this country, is resilient, it's flexible, it changes shape and form according to the context. It can come from below or from above, and it can be exploited by different actors, including Jews themselves. Even a state that officially condemns anti-Semitism or racism can promote it by selectively and partially combating it, turning a blind eye, pretend the problem doesn't exist, like Stalin saying in the late 1940s, there are no pogroms, hence there is no anti-Semitism. Thank you so much to the JBC, a true honor to win this award.
This year's recipient of the Baru Award for Poetry in memory of Ruth and Bernie Weinflash is an astounding talent. Ilya Kaminsky takes home the honor for Deaf Republic, a feat of poetic mastery that has been recognized all around the world for its powerful act of storytelling. It's a book that honors historic acts of resilience while also shattering contemporary complacency as an allegorical tale of resistance. Deaf Republic reminds readers that apathetic silence in the face of atrocity is an act of privilege. Congratulations to you, Ilya.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor, especially as a Jewish refugee from the city of Odessa, Ukraine, to receive the National Jewish Book Award. Instead of describing the book of poems, I figure it's best to just read you a very simple poem. Because I speak with a heavy accent, I have placed a link in the chat. The poem is called "We Live It Happily During the War." We live happily during the war, and when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was fallen. Invisible house, by invisible house, by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In a 6 month of a disastrous rain, in a house of money, in a street of money, in a city of money, in a country of money, our great country of money. We, forgive us, lived happily during the war. Thank you.
This year's Mimi S. Frank Award in Sephardic Culture in memory of Becky Levy goes to Joshua Cole for his work, Lethal Provocation, the Constantine Murders and the Politics of French Algeria. Joshua's intense, in-depth piece of scholarship is, as our judges put it, a masterful and riveting history of Algerian Jews and their relations with their Muslim and Christian neighbors. Joshua re-examines our understanding of the Constantine murders, providing critical historical context. Thank you, Joshua, for opening a window for us into this fascinating piece of French, Jewish, and Algerian history. Congratulations.
I'm very honored that the Jewish Book Council has recognized my work in this way. Lethal Provocation is about a terrible event, the worst episode of anti-Jewish violence on French territory in peacetime in the 20th century, the Constantine riots of 1934 in French Algeria. As I was writing this book, I was struck by a paradox. The archival sources were tremendously rich, filled with untold stories about the lives of Jewish and Muslim residents of this North African city. On the other hand, contemporary explanations from officials were uninformative, as if they did not want to reveal the information contained in their own records. This was a clue. There was something hidden here, and figuring out what that was became the central problem of this book. I hope that this recognition will bring my work new readers. Its subject matter is timely. In 1934, a debate about the possibility of making Jews and Muslims equal citizens of a French imperial nation state created an opportunity for provocations that took the lives of 28 people. My work shows that this violence was not inevitable. It resulted from human and political choices that could have been different. In that possibility, I look for hope. Thank you very much for this honor.
This year, the Visual Arts Award goes to Rebecca Shakin's Edith Halpert, The Downtown Gallery and the Rise of American Art, a companion volume to the Jewish Museum's recent exhibition on the subject. Rebecca, your intense scholarship illuminates Halpert's long obscured history as a trailblazing gallerist and intrepid champion of American modernists, and introduces the world to a woman in the arts who deserves to be remembered. We're honored to celebrate Edith Halpert through your work. which is revelatory, insightful, and a major contribution to visual arts and history. Mazel tov, Rebecca.
Thank you. It is truly an honor to accept this award for Edith Halpert, the Downtown Gallery, and the Rise of American Art. This book and the recent exhibition at the Jewish Museum in New York grew out of a desire to tell stories about Jewish women who have made an indelible impact on American art and culture. Edith Halpert opened her downtown gallery in Greenwich Village in 1926 at the age of 26, where she championed extraordinary artists for over 4 decades, including Ben Shahn, Stuart Davis, Jacob Lawrence, Yasuo Kuniyoshi, and Georgia O'Keeffe. Halpert, who was herself an immigrant, a woman, and a Jew, saw the diversity of American artists as a powerful expression of the nation's democracy. In writing this book, I've come to realize that the art world today is greatly indebted to Halpert's radically inclusive vision. I think she would be especially pleased to see that the industry is finally addressing the disparity in representation for women, artists of color, and other marginalized groups as a non-negotiable moral imperative, a trend that Halpert set in motion with her forward-thinking program nearly 100 years ago. Her insistence that we support free expression and diversity of opinion, and that these are the defining features of American art and culture, has never been more timely or more relevant. It is my hope that Halpert's democratic spirit will continue to guide our understanding of American art and culture for years to come. Thank you.
The winner of this year's Barbara Dobkin Award in Women's Studies goes to Naomi Seidman for her fascinating and original book, Sarah Schennerer and the Beis Yaakov Movement. Naomi, through your work, you bring us into Sarah's world, a trailblazer for the education of Jewish women. The book provides needed insight into the emergence and growth of the formidable Orthodox education system for women, a world mostly unknown to the general Jewish public. We salute you for opening a window for us into this compelling history. Congratulations, Naomi.
Thank you so much. I'm speaking to you today from Berkeley, which I like to call Yerushalayim de California, and just a few blocks away from Robert Alter, who was my graduate advisor. So I feel very proud of that too. My book tells the story of a divorced Krakow seamstress with an 8th grade education who rescued Orthodoxy at a moment of peril, reversing a wave of defection from Orthodoxy by girls from traditional homes. Sarah Schennerer always said that she was hoping to bring the hearts of the daughters back to their mothers and the mothers back to their daughters. In some way that Sarah Schennerer didn't exactly have in mind, this book brought me closer to my own mother, since she served as a primary source on what it was like to be a student at the Beis Yaakov Seminary in Chernovitz in the 1930s. In the course of researching the book, I also discovered that Beis Yaakov commissioned my father to write the first history of the movement. His book was published in Polish in 1936, 83 years before my own. My father passed away in 1995, but I feel so fortunate that my mother is with us here today in Brooklyn. Thank you again for this great honor.
The winner of the young adult category this year is Rachel Dwoskin for Someday We Will Fly, a story of a girl from Warsaw whose world has turned upside down during the Holocaust and has to flee to Japanese-occupied Shanghai with her father and younger sister. Rachel Dwoskin's thorough research and sharp, empathetic prose will immerse readers in wartime Shanghai. Fully realized characters leap and twirl off the pages of this luminous, haunting novel, and we are thrilled to honor you tonight. Rachel, on your achievement, Mazel Tov.
Thank you so much for this beautiful honor and company. I wrote Someday We Will Fly because of a photograph I saw in a museum in Shanghai of a gaggle of teenage boys in 1940. And they look mischievous and sweet like teenagers anywhere, but also hollowed out. They had just escaped Europe, as 18,000 Jewish refugees did, to survive World War II in Japanese-occupied Shanghai, the last port in the world that allowed entry. To my astonishment, the boys in the photo are holding table tennis paddles, and they are wearing t-shirts monogrammed with school insignias. Their parents had fled the Nazis, traveled thousands of miles with nothing, and then in Shanghai made a school for their children and a table tennis team and t-shirts, which they went to the trouble to monogram. In those insignias seemed to me an icon of the heroism of refugee communities. And I wrote the novel in order to imagine how human beings give our children childhoods in contexts that are full of dread. I spent 7 summers in Shanghai with my beautiful parents of the earlier video. Hi, Mom and Dad. And I created their Lilia, my 16-year-old heroine, who waits out the war in Shanghai without her mom and figures out, as kids do, how to grow up. Lilia let me ask about everything from the real history of the Shanghai Jews to fanciful aspects of how we transcend our own lives, and the very acute question of how to make sure we allow refugee populations safe landings, as Shanghai did for so many Jewish families who otherwise wouldn't have survived. Thank you so much.
Winning the J.J. Greenberg Memorial Fiction Award is Edgar Carrot for his collection of short stories, Fly Already, which the judges call a tour de force, while describing the stories as dark and funny, touching and heartbreaking, edgy and probing, weird yet relatable. The mundane become alive in his writing, and we are proud to honor Edgar and his work tonight.
Hi, it's both a great honor and a great pleasure to be here with you in this ceremony with my book, Fly Already. It's a very special book for me. I think it mainly speaks about a feeling of isolation in a modern world in which technology, in a sense, only makes connecting with other people a little bit more difficult, and with the rules of the world around us ever changing. It's funny because I've written this book long before the pandemic, but in a sense it speaks about the zeitgeist that we're experiencing now, living in a world in which we don't really know what future awaits us, and dealing with the other both as some kind of a passionate fantasy and an existential threat. It's strange, I think, sometimes there is something in our thoughts and anxieties and fears that can predict, I guess, things that, that our consciousness will only understand later. But somehow this book was full of anxiety and fear is becoming more relevant now than it was in the time in which I wrote it.
For the Gerard and Ella Berman Memorial Award for History, we are proud to honor Daniel Okrent for The Guarded Gate, Bigotry, Eugenics, and the Law That Kept 2 Generations of Jews, Italians, and other European immigrants out of America. As our judges note, Okrent reveals how scientists of an earlier era provided lawmakers a rationale for barring the golden door of America to immigrants deemed to be undesirable, including 2 generations of European Jews. This book looks to the recent past, but it also shines a bright light on the debate over immigration policy that figures so prominently in public conversation today.
Among the many reasons I have to be gratified for the receipt of this great honor, I would put first, it's the opportunity to bring the story that my book tells to a wider group of people, to a wider audience. My book is about how 100 years ago, American law was changed to keep Jews from Eastern Europe, Italians, Greeks, and others from Southern Europe out of the country. The law that was passed in 1924 and that was in place for 41 years obviously had profound consequences, not only on America, but especially on the lives of those who were unable to come. My hope is that today, as we see other groups being kept out of the country because of their nationality, because of their religion, because of their race, that we will make this connection and see that we've been there before and it's not a pretty place to be. Today, we're saying you can't come into the country if you're from these Muslim countries, or we're saying you can't come in if you're from Central America or from Mexico. It's not because you're a criminal or you even, you don't have skills that we can use. It's not about the individual. It's about the group that the individual belongs to. Let's all try to keep this in mind. What happened 100 years ago is happening again, and it can't be a happy result. Thank you again. It's a great honor. I wish I could be there with you tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
For the Nahum M. Sarna Memorial Award, we honor Eric Lowy. Eric's wonderful work, Rashi's Commentary on the Torah, Canonization and Resistance in the Reception of a Jewish Classic, is a comprehensive history of the most important Jewish commentary on the Torah. Our judges remark that through meticulous scholarship and a vibrant writing style, the book takes us on a journey following the twists and turns of this adventure. Eric, thank you so much for your dedication and hard work.
Greetings to you all from Jerusalem. In a Yiddish poem of 1890, Morris Winchevsky expressed the Torah's inseparability from Rashi's commentary on it in Jewish collective memory. We're all brothers, he wrote, religious and leftists all united, like groom and bride, like Chumash and Rashi, like Hugel and Kasha. Here's but one of countless testimonies to a feature of Judaism that is as obvious as it was astonishingly neglected by scholars: the enduring manner in which Rashi has shaped the meaning of the Torah for nearly a millennium among scholars, lay readers, and even children taking their earliest steps in Jewish learning. It's this riveting and, it turns out, highly complex story that I set out to tell in my book. The most startling discovery, a movement of passionate resistance to Rashi, at times expressed in the harshest and most personal terms. As for the rest of the tale, I invite you to read my book, kindly described by the Jewish Book Council judges as exemplary scholarship written in a style that will keep you engaged and turning its pages. But, spoiler alert, despite many twists and turns along its path to preeminence, the commentary did win the day, entering, in a winning metaphor of Vivian Zornberg, the bloodstream of Jewish culture. It's an honor to have received the Sarna Memorial Award for Scholarship. My thanks to those at the Council who, amidst such challenging circumstances, found a way to allow us all to celebrate together this evening.
The winner of the Writing Based on Archival Material JDC Herbert Kotsky Award is Dr. Elizabeth Gallus for her outstanding work of research and scholarship, A Mortuary of Books, The Rescue of Jewish Culture After the Holocaust, and the book's translator, Alex Skinner. Elizabeth's use of archival material to dive into the recovery of lost Jewish property after the war is integral to our understanding of the Holocaust and of pre-war Jewish life. The judges call her book meticulously researched, vital, and well-written, praising it for fusing history and memory and shaping generations of future research. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and to Alex for your skillful translation, ensuring that the book will reach readers all over the globe.
Good evening to everybody from Berlin. In these dire times, I'm especially thankful that you created this opportunity to come together virtually. It is difficult for me to express how very honored I am that my book was chosen for this prestigious award. And this is less to the fact that on a personal level, it obviously makes me very proud and deeply grateful. Rather, I'm truly happy that it increases the attention for the outstanding commitment of my book's protagonists from the Jewish Cultural Reconstruction Initiative in the post-war years. Their task was to salvage the movable material remnants of European culture after the Holocaust. It resulted in the restoration of more than 500,000 books and other treasures to mainly the US and Israel. Still today, cultural restitution often entails heated debate. And I hope that this story helps us to understand in what ways such processes do not only imply the transfer of an item from one place to the other, but that they mostly entail the reestablishment of recognition, justice, and memory, and a sense for continuity after rupture. Heartfelt thanks and my best wishes to you all.
Let me just launch into a quotation from Raphael Lemkin, who was a Polish Jewish jurist, and he wrote these words in 1933. An attack targeting a collectivity can also take the form of systematic and organized destruction of the art and cultural heritage. in which the unique genius and achievement of a collectivity are revealed in fields of science, arts, and literature. The contribution of any particular collectivity to world culture as a whole forms the wealth of all of humanity, even while exhibiting unique characteristics. Thus, the destruction of a work of art of any nation must be regarded as acts of vandalism directed against world culture. And I chose those lines because they capture at least one aspect of what is a very multifaceted volume that it was a great privilege to translate from German into English. And it captures something which I love about this book, which I can praise because I'm only the translator, you understand, which is that it has tremendous scholarly depth while also having a great deal of heart and soul. And I heartily recommend it to all of you. And thank you to the Jewish Book Council from the bottom of my heart.
Now, Dina W. Neusner, you are the recipient of this year's Mentorship Award in honor of Carolyn Starman Hessel, an award created to recognize the contribution of mentors in the field of Jewish literature. Without you, the Jewish literary landscape would not look the way it does today, and we're particularly proud to honor an editor who has worked across such a wide spectrum of literature, including children's textbooks and Haggadot. Under your leadership at Apples and Honey Press, you've mentored emerging professionals, helping them bring their Jewish stories to life. Thank you for your tremendous dedication. We're proud to honor you here tonight.
I'm thrilled and honored to be receiving this mentorship award from the Jewish Book Council. Thank you. It means so much to me to be here in the company of so many talented authors. I've been a book editor for a long time. I've worked at some very large publishers, but I found my home at a very small one, Behrman House, and its children's imprint, Apples and Honey, where I found our mission to promote Jewish identity and engagement deeply meaningful. Along the way, I've learned how to be an editor and a mentor to my authors. I've learned that good editing is about developing relationships. That is more about asking good questions than about giving answers. I've learned that manuscripts are a labor of love, and a good editor needs to start there with the author's voice and intention and passion. I've learned that mentoring a colleague is similar in some ways to developing an author. When you give of your time, your energy, and your caring, it comes back to you in the form of a great book, or a developing talent, or a good friend. With mentoring, as with so much of life, you get back what you put in. I'm grateful to the mentors who have helped me grow as an editor and who now inspire me to pay it forward. From Nancy Paulson at Puffin Books, who gave me my start in children's books 27 years ago, to David Behrman of Behrman House, who challenges me every day to do my best work. Thank you, JBC, for this honor.
And our final honor tonight goes to the winner of the Everett Family Foundation Book of the Year, Pamela S. Nadell, for her work, America's Jewish Women, A History from Colonial Times to Today. Building on her deep scholarly foundations in American Jewish history and her pioneering and innovative research on Jewish women, our judges called Pamela's work a monumental feat of scholarship, filled with personal details of women's experiences with immigration, education, the workplace, marriage, and motherhood, as well as with anti-Semitism and sexual discrimination. As Pamela teaches us, the diversity of America's Jewish women is staggering, but equally awe-inspiring is their share in the collective American Jewish female past. We are so proud to honor you tonight, Pamela, as the recipient of the 2019 Everett Family Foundation Jewish Book of the Year Award. Mazel tov, Pamela.
Thank you so much. Every year, I eagerly await the announcement of the National Jewish Book Awards. Combing through the list of winners and finalists, I check off the books that I have already read and then make a long list of titles to read. I never manage to read them all before the next year's awards come out. Maybe this year, having just met these terrific authors, I will succeed. We writers start out as readers. I like to think that the inspiration for my book was planted when I was a child. Fun with Dick and Jane unlocked the keys to the kingdom of reading. Then, in the children's room at the public library, I discovered shelves filled with biographies and histories. I skipped over those of Washington and Jefferson and headed straight to the women: Clara Barton, Amelia Earhart, Dolly Madison. Meanwhile, my brand new suburban public school had its own tiny library. There I stumbled upon Sidney Taylor's all-of-a-kind family series. These books wove the enchantments of reading about another place and time, but this time I was reading about a Jewish family in turn-of-the-century New York. When the series was republished, not even a decade ago, I quipped, I became a Jewish historian because of these books. In college and graduate school, while reading the then canon of modern Jewish literature and a ton of history, mostly written by men, I began seeking out Jewish women who had made it into history. And I began diving deeply into the new field of women's and gender history as it exploded. For a quarter of a century, while writing other books, I kept planning my history of America's Jewish women. The day I sent my manuscript off, my daughter, already in medical school, posted on Instagram a photo taken when she was just 4. The caption, "My mom finally finished the book." To send out into the world a book started, abandoned, and restarted again, and then to see it acclaimed is gratifying and humbling. I joined this evening's glittering group of writers who know what I mean. We write because that is what we do. Sometimes we are immensely fortunate. We strike a chord in our readers. This is one of those wonderful moments. Thank you to the Jewish Book Council for this terrific honor.
Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Alan Kadish, a fellow member of Jewish Book Council's Board of Directors. Alan?
Thank you very much. Good evening. First, I'd like to add my congratulations to all of today's awardees. As you've just heard, taking an idea from conception to completion requires dedication and hard work that's sometimes not always evident by the physical size or weight of the final product. But the satisfaction derived from the process and its completion is enormously gratifying. The Jewish people have a long history of reverence for books. Maybe it's even an obsession. Despite the challenges we have faced from anti-Semitism, pogroms, and the Holocaust, history has shown that Jewish culture remains devoted to writing and reading, even in the worst of times, to books. While for many centuries, this connection with books pertained almost exclusively to scholarly works about the Torah, the past few centuries have seen Jewish writing become diverse and incorporate every facet of history, Jewish life, and literature. Our awardees tonight demonstrate this diversity. The books that you have created and added to the canon of far-reaching Jewish literature are important links in a chain that stretches back over millennia and will expand forward as your work educates and inspires readers and future writers. To the audience, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's virtual dinner and seen what the work of the Jewish Book Council and the National Jewish Book Awards mean. Please support the work that the Jewish Book Council does in supporting and encouraging Jewish writers by joining and becoming a member and supporting the council's work. Tonight, because of COVID, we can't share dinner together, but we share a respect for your commitment and accomplishments. Let's bring our authors back in now, and we want to celebrate collectively with you. It's time to really celebrate. So I'd like to propose a closing toast to the authors, to the members of the Jewish Book Council, and to our audience. At a time when COVID has made our lives tough and sometimes joyless, the joy of seeing and sharing this evening with a remarkable group of people is immense. I hope to be able to join you in person at some time soon. Mazel tov, and good luck to all of us.